Well, Penn State dialed it up, all the energy, the whiteout energy, and they prevail over an undefeated Illinois team tonight. Immediate live reaction right here. It was an amazing week 5 around the Big Ten and some other news around the league. Michigan hangs on. Ohio State is Ohio State, and it's time to start taking Illinois and Ruckers seriously. Plus, we have Big Ten After Dark coming up as well. All that right here on a live edition of Locked On Big Ten.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. If you check us out during the week, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So we'll talk about this Illinois at Penn State game, which just ended. The Nittany Lions win 21-7. We'll talk about the rest of the Big Ten right here as well. Plus, we got a late game tonight. And our first look at Week 6 coming up in just a moment. Thanks for checking us out again on this live edition of Locked On Big Ten. So I was listening to the Penn State radio show, their pregame show, right before the big game tonight, and all they were talking about was the Illinois running game and how they feared it. And I thought, Caden Fagan's a good running back, very well. But I was thinking, man, they better not forget about Luke Altmaier. He could potentially have a big game as well. And it was right off the bat, it was an interesting game because Illinois took the opening drive down the field, 11 plays, 75 yards. Luke Altmaier mixing a lot of passing in that drive, found Carson Goda for a 4-yard touchdown and a 7-0 lead. And wow, it looked like this was going to be a ball game. And it was. Largely, it was a close ball. But that was the last time Illinois would score for the rest of this game. That's a little surprising. I talked about a lot going into this game. I was surprised. Vegas had this line at -17, -19. I thought that was a little disrespectful. I thought Illinois was a much better team. And as it turns out, Penn State won by 14. They didn't cover, but they get an impressive win. And this game was really a one-score game for the majority. It was tied at the half at 7. It was 14-7 for the majority of the game. The late touchdown, Penn State gets the 14-point win. Penn State answered that immediate touchdown by Illinois out of the box with their own 8-play, 75-yard drive. Tyler Warren, this is a kid you got to watch if you haven't seen much of him. He does everything, and he's huge, but he'll play any position on the field. He ran for a 3-yard touchdown to make it 7-7. Tyler Warren, again, he's a tight end for Penn State. He's 6'6". He's 257 pounds. He's huge. Offensive coordinator Andy Kolanecki loves this guy. He's his secret weapon. He rushed for a touchdown. He's passed for a touchdown, and he caught a touchdown pass this year. He does everything. Even took a snap under center tonight. And let's fast forward to the end of the first half because this was a huge missed opportunity for Illinois at the end of the half. Caden Fagan had busted off a nice 34-yard run. Illinois eventually got it down to 1st and goal from the 2. They had bad snaps, loss on the plays, penalties. There was the questionable intentional grounding. They're going backwards. They were 2 yards out from taking a 14-7 lead at the half. They end up trying a 45-yard field goal, which they missed. And it was a huge – when they go back and look at the film of this game, Brett Bielema and company, they're going to look at the end of how they handled the first half. They really blew it right there. They could have been up 14-7. They could have been up 10-7. But instead, it was 7-7 going into the half. And coming out of the second half, Penn State did what Illinois did at the beginning of the game. They just marched it on down the field. 12 plays, 74 yards. And Nicholas Singleton, a 4-yard touchdown here. Tyler Warren, by the way, he was under center to take that snap and hand it off. I'm telling you, Warren does everything. So Penn State takes the 14-7 lead with 8:38 to go in the third. Third quarter was winding down. Interesting point here, because Penn State was driving the ball. They could have gone for a kill shot. They had 4th and 3. Again, they're up by a touchdown at the Illinois 17-yard line. James Franklin decides to not go for a field goal, which would put him up 17-7, put him up by 2 scores. Drew Aller completed the pass on the play to Julian Fleming, but he was tackled by Miles Scott short of the first down marker. Turnover on downs. Great pressure by Illinois on Aller on that play. He had to rush it, and all of a sudden, Illinois takes over on downs. So that drive goes into the fourth quarter, but Penn State just started dialing up pressure. They had 5 sacks on the night, I think, forcing Illinois to punt there. And at this point of the game, I think Penn State had like 7 runs of 10 or more. Their running game was fantastic tonight. The Penn State running game, absolutely fantastic. But then that drive in the fourth quarter, Penn State comes up on a 4th down situation again. Now, remember, earlier, James Franklin decided to go for it on 4th down, didn't get it, gave up the points. This time he decides to kick the field goal, 41-yarder, and they missed it. So they kept striking. If there was a weakness tonight or a disappointing thing that Penn State will look at tomorrow when they look at the game film, it'll be these 4th down calls and execution, therefore. So we're midway through the fourth quarter at this point. Still a 1-score game. Illinois had a drive kind of stall out at midfield at this point. There's about 6 minutes to go. They had the 4th down and 6. Penn State was offsides for 5 yards. So now it's a 4th and 1. But then Illinois shoots itself on the foot with a false start. So now they're back to 4th and 6. And Luke Altmaier, I don't know what he was looking at. He's a pretty good quarterback. He doesn't throw interceptions. He threw one right in the middle. It was picked off by A.J. Harris, who would have been gone for a pick 6. But Zion Tracy, for some reason, had a block in the back. It did nothing to help him. He was already gone. He would have already scored without the block. So it brings the ball back. But eventually, Katron Allen does punch it in, and they cap off the drive for the touchdown. 8-play, 41-yard drive. And on the day, Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen combined for 34 carries and 196 yards on Saturday. And it just got, 2 things. Just the steady running game of Penn State all day. And then they really dialed up the defensive pressure on Luke Altmaier in the second half in particular. The later the game got, the more pressure was in his face, because at that point, Penn State knew he had to throw. No threat from the running game at that point. And it was a great job by Penn State. I'm sure you Nittany Lion fans are very excited. That was a hard-earned win, and nothing to be ashamed of for Illinois. They're a good football team. They're going to win a lot of games. They've already beaten 2 ranked teams, one of them on the road, Nebraska last week. They beat Kansas at home earlier. So this is a game of 2 good football teams going at it on a Saturday night in the Big Ten. We'll take some of your comments on that in just a little bit, those that are watching us live here on YouTube. Quickly, though, some other thoughts from around the Big Ten here in Week 5. Michigan at home against Minnesota. The Little Brown Jug have been playing since 1909. In the rain, they get it. Michigan won this game 27-24. You're going, what? They led it at one point 24-3 going into the fourth quarter. It was very reminiscent of a couple weeks ago when Michigan only beat Arkansas State by 10 points. And it was a game they were leading 23-7 going into the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden it's a game. Got to watch out on closing these things out if you're a Spartans fan. And kudos to Minnesota and PJ Fleck. They scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to make this thing interesting. Khalil Mullings did get the start instead of Donovan Edwards at running back. And he answered with 111 yards for 2 touchdowns. Again, I mentioned the 3 touchdowns for Minnesota to get right back into this game there. They kicked an onside kick, and they got it with about a minute and a half to go. They thought, oh, man, we're going to pull off the upset here. But there was a penalty on the onside kick. I believe they're called for offsides. So they don't get it. They kick it again. Khalil Mullings jumps on it, dives for it. Game over. Michigan runs out the clock. Michigan's quarterback situation, still a little questionable. Alex Orji completed 10 of 18 passes in this game for just 86 yards. He did throw a touchdown pass, but he also threw an interception that kind of helped the Gophers come back in the second half. Michigan did hold Minnesota's running back and Detroit native There's Taylor to 36 yards on 13 carries. But he did have 10 catches for 52 yards out of the backfield. Meanwhile, we need to start paying attention to Indiana. Indiana is 5-0 for the first time since 1967. They beat Maryland 42-28. 5-0. IU quarterback Curtis Rourke did get off to a slow start in this game. He threw 2 early interceptions, but he recovered, and he ended up throwing a season-high 359 yards and 3 touchdowns in the game. Back to the turnovers. Indiana had 4 on the day. They hadn't had any all season. Part of the reason they were 4-0 going into this game. And it's hard to win a game when you overcome. It's hard to overcome 4 turnovers, but they did it. They did it today. They were just very explosive. And this game was close into the second half. It was tied at 21 at one point. Elijah Sherrod had 7 catches for 218 yards and a score. Tyson Lawton had 19 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown. And the Terps' Billy Edwards Jr. threw 3 touchdown passes. Roman Hemby ran for 117 yards. He's a great running back. 75 of them came on 1 scoring play. The great wide receiver they have, Ty Felton, and also Caden Prather, both very good receivers. They were hurt. Prather came back, but Felton did not. We'll keep our eye out for this situation because he's the most explosive player on the team for the Maryland Terps. So if he's got to be out for any time, that's going to hurt him. Meanwhile, the Hoosiers look to go to 6-0 at Northwestern next week. Well, more on that in just a moment. Nebraska and Purdue. Did you catch this game today? These 2 teams set football back to the leather helmet days and set football back 60 years. This game was scoreless at halftime. Purdue had a 3-0 lead in the second half, and then Nebraska woke up. Dylan Raiola threw for 257 yards and a touchdown, and they scored 28 unanswered points at that point, and including in that run of 28-0, senior linebacker John Bullock added a 29-yard pick 6 offensive card. The Huskers defense held Purdue to 50 yards rushing. Purdue added a score in the final 2 minutes to make the score look better than it really was. This was not good. And penalties continue to be the problem for the Huskers. Again, we talked about this in a podcast earlier this week. By the way, go back. You can always check out our previous podcast at talkbig10.com. That's our website. It's the number 10, talkbig10.com. Go back, check all of our podcasts, and buy your merchandise for your favorite school right there as well. But Nebraska, 11 more penalties, 94 yards. Too much. And Purdue, 13 penalties, 165 yards. I've never heard of a team having 165 yards of penalties. They got to clean that up. That was awful. Meanwhile, Wisconsin, quarterback changed due to injury. They go out west of the Coliseum to take on Southern Cal. Wisconsin led this game 21-10 at the half. In fact, the crowd at the Coliseum was booing the USC Trojans as they left the field for halftime. But Miller Moss and the Trojans got this thing going. They got busy in the second half. They outscored Wisconsin 28-0 in the second half to get their first Big Ten win. Jacoby Lane had 10 catches, 105 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And Deuce Robinson scored the go-ahead touchdown with 1:28 to go. Wisconsin was in this thing, man. They were. Moss threw for 308 yards and accounted for 4 touchdowns. And USC linebacker Mason Cobb had a key interception with about 5 minutes to go. The Badgers, of course, were undermanned. Braden Locke got his first start of the season because Tyler Van Dyke, season-ending injury 2 weeks ago against Alabama. Locke was 13-26 for 180 yards. All right, so we got a lot going on here. Still more to cover. The Buckeyes continue to be on a roll. We got Big Ten After Dark with Oregon and UCLA. Ruckers is undefeated. We haven't gotten to their Friday night game against Washington. Plus, we'll get to some of your comments here as we are live on a Saturday night. Immediate first reaction of Big Ten action right here on Locked On Big Ten. If you are new, we're here every day. We're live on the weekends, but live every day. Subscribe. You click the button. It's free. It never costs you anything. And then you're into the Big Ten loop with us. Also, we always ask you to share with your friends that might not know we're out here every day. So subscribe, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast, and to get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right, we still have plenty to go here. We're going to get to your comments and some of these other games that we haven't hit on just yet. It's all coming up in just 1 minute right here on a live edition of Locked On Big Ten. I'll tell you about Robinhood. Robinhood is awesome. We enjoy talking about them. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1% out there. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now, with the resourceful individual, with Robinhood Gold, you can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5 APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right, we are live here, Locked On Big Ten on a Saturday night going into a Sunday. Thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And also check out our website where all of our podcasts and your favorite school merchandise is, talkbig1010.com. The Ohio State Buckeyes, they go into Michigan State for their game today, and they win 38-7. And we're going to get into this a little bit more as we get into the week as well. But Jeremiah Smith, I am convinced, has already got the lockdown on Big Ten Freshman of the Year. Did you see the one-handed catch down the sideline he made today on a touchdown, 17-yard touchdown? By the way, the pass was from Devin Brown. Smith also ran in a 19-yard touchdown in the first half. He's incredible. Will Howard, a couple of touchdowns and a pick in this game. And Emeka Egbuka, 7 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown in this game for the Buckeyes. Again, 38-7. That game was on Peacock earlier tonight against the Spartans. Meanwhile, did you see Friday night, Washington at Ruckers? I told you this is going to be tough for Washington, as good as they are, to fly all the way across the country on a Friday night, taking on a very good Ruckers team. Ruckers led this game 14-3 at the half. They end up winning it to go to 4-0, 21-18. Washington, if you didn't stay up late and watch the end of it, you missed a thriller, because Washington kicker Grady Gross missed a 55-yard field goal at the horn that would have tied the game. Cal Monungai, we always like talking about him, ran for 132 yards and a touchdown, and Ruckers is off to a 4-0 start for the first time since 2012. Washington falls to 3-2. They're 1-1 in the Big Ten already, losing their first road Big Ten game. Even though Washington outgained Ruckers on the night, 521 yards to 299. That's a big difference, but they missed 3 field goals. They had 6 penalties for 69 yards, including an illegal substitution. A kid ran onto the field. I don't know if he was celebrating or what, during a blocked punt. Gave Ruckers the ball back, and they turned it into a touchdown and a 14-3 lead. Not good. And then Washington was also just 2 of 12 on third down on the night. They couldn't get it going. Tonight, right now, as we speak, we've got Big Ten After Dark. We used to call it Pac-12 After Dark, but we'll steal it. Big Ten After Dark. Oregon on the road at UCLA at the Rose Bowl on Fox. And look, I thought the appeal for Pac-12 teams coming to the Big Ten was going to be so they get some earlier times and some better ratings. This game's going to end after 2 a.m. Eastern time as we speak, but that's all right. We'll spread it out. We'll watch football Friday nights, all day Saturday, and into Sunday morning, if we will. Oregon's coming off a bye following their win versus Oregon State, where they appear to fix some of their problems with the fumbles and the penalties and all that the first 2 games. But their prevalent storyline was they weren't winning by enough points, for those that are concerned with such things. Says, look, the expectation in Eugene is for them to get to the Big Ten championship game and win a national championship. They're that good, and they are. They're in the mix. There's no question about it. So we'll see how they look coming up this bye, and presumably will have given themselves a final tune-up for the rest of the season. As far as UCLA goes, they're flat out struggling. They are struggling. However, I got to give them a little credit last week, right? Going into LSU, that's one of the toughest places to play in the country. That game was tied at 17.5 before the wheels fell off a little bit in the second half. Hot day, people dropping like flies all over the place, but they ultimately dropped the contest out there. All right, we've got a lot going on as we are live. I'm going to get to some of your comments, and then we're going to take a look ahead at week 6. So let's see what we've got going on here. I appreciate everybody for checking in. A lot of we are Penn State out there on there. Andrew checking in with a Go Big Red, GBR. How about that? Meanwhile, let's see. Illinois should still be ranked from Sean. They might be, or they might fall out to others receiving votes. They're not going to go far away. That's a good football, because you're right. They got 2 wins against ranked teams. They might stay in the top 25. That's a good point. Let's see here. More we are. Always love that. And here's a shout out to the Hawkeyes who were on by today. And Fight On says, how bad and how terrible was USC? All the criticism they got. No love for Southern Cal. We give love to Southern Cal all the time out here. This is a fun football team to watch. And Donnie checking in. Michigan looked very vulnerable against the Golden Gophers today. Yeah, again, there were some shades of the Arkansas State game just a couple of weeks ago. I agree with you on that as well. All right, we're going to have the first look at week 6 around the Big Ten. Hang with us. That's right here on a live edition of Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel, love FanDuel. NFL fans out there, you can start the season. We're underway, man. We're in the mix here. You get a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats and view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets as well with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Check it out, and you can get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Want to keep an eye on the Lions and Seattle, one of the 2 Monday Night Football games. I'll give the edge to the Lions on that one. Well, it's going to be a tough battle because they're missing a lot of players. They're losing their center is out. So it's going to be a close, hard-fought football game. But you can check that out for yourself right there on FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Locked On Big Ten live on a Saturday night. Let me take another peek at just a couple more comments, more for UM. A shout out there. And again, Michigan. All you guys are checking in on your favorite team. A lot of we are Penn State on there. That's very good. All right, now let's take a look at what's coming up for week 6 next week already. I mean, can you believe it's week 6? Unbelievable. So our Friday night game is going to be Michigan State at Oregon. That is at 8:00 Eastern on Fox. That's the Friday night tilt. Meanwhile, on Saturday, UCLA is at Penn State. That's a noon game. We'll see how they do coming across the country. Penn State with some momentum right now. Michigan is at Washington. That is the rematch of the national championship, except some of the coaches and players aren't there anymore. But that's okay. We just learned that is going to be the 7 p.m. Eastern game, I believe. I'll let you know if you check in later in the week here on Locked On Big Ten. But I think that's the game we're going to follow live. So probably another 10:30-ish Eastern time, 7:30 Pacific, live Locked On Big Ten next Saturday. We'll do it after that game. USC is at Minnesota. I think that's going to be an interesting game. Minnesota playing Michigan at Michigan very well. In fact, right, both Minnesota and Southern Cal both lost at Michigan in the last 2 weeks by 3 points. Maybe that'll be an even match. And it's at Minnesota. It could be a little interesting advantage there. The Indiana Hoosiers looking to go 6-0, and they're going to do it at Northwestern, a team that struggles to put points on the board. Indiana averages about 48 points a game. So we'll see. And that's going to be at the little on-campus stadium that they have there at Northwestern because Ryan Field is being rebuilt completely. Ruckers is at Nebraska. That one, I think, is going to be a close ball game. That's going to be a punch-you-in-the-mouth football game. Classic defense. Ruckers at Nebraska. That's going to be a fun game to watch. I'm going to check that out. Of course, check them all out. Purdue is at Wisconsin. Both teams trying to get right. And Iowa is at Ohio State. That's a 3:30 game on CBS. And we'll see. Iowa's got a really good defense. And Ohio State's got a really good defense. Is Iowa's defense good enough to go into Ohio State and do anything to slow down that offense? There's no better team than Iowa defensively to go in there and try and do it. The question is, can they do it? It's going to be an interesting game. Absolutely. We'll be checking that out right here as well. I want to thank all of you for tuning in live here on Saturday night. If you're late or you just catching us on the end, this will be reposted as a regular podcast in just a few moments, and you'll have it all weekend where you can watch. Always encourage you to subscribe for free and share and let your friends know we're out here each and every day talking Big Ten. We have a lot of fun. Many ways for you to interact with me. You can hit me up on Twitter or X at TalkBig10. And we have our website, talkbig10.com. Get your merchandise from your favorite school and check out our previous podcast for a second listen there as well. Always look forward to having you. And we're on YouTube. I always appreciate the comments, even whether we're live or whether during the week you want to drop a comment or shout out against your rival or whatever. We got a lot of people going back and forth on that. Subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app and to get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it's available each and every day. I know we're live here, but we usually come out at 6 a.m. Eastern, audio and video every single day, 3 o'clock Pacific. Hey, after you're done with us, don't forget to check out our friends at Locked On College Football. They got a podcast of their own. They're part of the Locked On Network as well, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That'll do it for another Saturday night going into a Sunday morning. Another great weekend of Big Ten football. Can't wait to catch you on Monday morning's podcast. Tell your friends about us. We'll see you there. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten Live.